Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray on ESPN 790 AM.
Brought to you proudly by Sportsman's Warehouse, Counts Marine, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and Avery Superstore.
Hey, good Saturday morning. Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray. I really ought to let Nick Getsky do the intro because he's got that voice. I've never noticed that when he was here before, but, it takes a certain voice to do a radio show like you, Gene.
Yes, it does.
That's Mrs. No, that was Mr. Gene Smith right there, and
that's his FM voice.
That's it.
No, that's your FM voice. And good morning, Nick. Again, let's hear it, Nick.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
There you go. Does that not sound good? He and Frank Barton need to get together. I don't even have to do the show, but okay, we got. This is first Saturday. It means back-to-back Gene Smith and. We really got him last week on that special show, celebrating all of his years of service to the TWRA and the Hunter Education Program and all those 20,000 kids he passed during his class, and wanted to bring a little cheer in Gene's life. And a lot of people, you can go to lroutdoors.com, my website, click on recent shows up there, and if you weren't able to hear it last week, just click on that June 29th show, and you'll see we really got him with his son and his grandson in the studio and everything. But we got a guy on with us now that he and I go back a long way. He goes back even further than me, if that's possible. I became outdoor editor of the Commercial Appeal in April 1988, not 1888, but 1988, when the legendary Henry Reynolds finally relinquished his duties after more than 40 years with the Commercial Appeal, and Steve McCadams was one of the first people that Henry said you need to go with, and I did. Spent some time, whether it was waterfowl hunting or whether it was just fishing or just hanging out with Steve. And so Steve's on the line with us this morning. He's in his 103rd year of guiding on Kentucky Lake.
He should know it by now.
No. In boat years, that is.
Oh, boat years. Okay.
How many years is it?
I'm on my 42nd year.
42nd year. Of course, when
he was only 10 when he started.
Yeah, he was 10 when he started.
Yeah, he was 10.
Yeah, started out with
19, but that does seem like about 100 years ago.
Now, hold on. He says it's 19 when he started. Gabbard's trying to talk in the back. We finally got all the dogs out of the campground where Gabbard is. Yeah, so we can hear.
A lot of people don't know McCadams started with an old reconverted braille boat with a 3.5 horse Scott Atwater elevator.
Can you hear that, Steve?
I can. I can.
No comeback on it. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I'll just listen.
Okay, you just listen. Well, we want to listen too because a lot of folks say, "Well, it's July." I don't like July. I'm sorry. I wished I could live in Montana just in July. That's only the season.
It'll do till August gets here.
Yeah, and then wait till August, and we'll have deer season in August now. So it's a crazy world. But talk about it from your perspective. July fishing on Kentucky Lake.
Well, we used to catch some pretty good crappie in July, quite frankly, along deep drop-offs and ledges and 18 to 25 feet. That was the norm for several years. It's gotten a little tougher the last few years. I think our fish are scattered and we don't have the numbers we once had, but you can still catch crappie in deep water if you back off the banks and get out there and, fish some deep submerged structure. We sink some treetops and, brush piles and things of that nature out in 25 and 28 foot of water once in a while. So you can find a few of those fish backing up at times. And the other type fishing that used to be quite good for us was the white bass. We used to have a great summer schooling activity on white bass, but they have disappeared kind of like our sauger over the years, so they're gone. And we do have some mayfly hatches. You can get light tackle, ultralight, or popping bug and a fly rod out and still have a little fun doing that. And you can catch some bass. Believe it or not, even when surface temperatures get up to 87, 88 degrees, you can still catch some bass in some shallow water if you can find those 10 minnows or mayflies hatching out, and that's happening right now. So you just got to get out early, pick your time. Get out early morning, late afternoon.
I've got to add something. I'm sitting here on the bank of Cordell Hull, and within the last 15 minutes, there's a mayfly hatch coming out.
Oh, okay.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, well, too bad Steve doesn't guide there. But He is where he belongs at Kentucky Lake. And you mentioned, what about water temperature now?
88 degrees by the end of the week, maybe. We're 84, 85 right now. If it stays this hot, it's not unusual at the middle of the day to jump 2 or 3 degrees and fall back a little bit at night. But, you can still catch some fish even in that hot weather. You just got to, plan your day. Get out there early and don't try to fight it in the middle of the day when the sun's bearing down on you.
And bluegill and bluegill fishing. I mean, July you can still catch them on bed, or
not really bedded. They'll just scatter out and feed on those mayfly larvae and the adult flies as they hatch and fall to the surface. So, boy, I've got fond memories of fishing fly rods with my dad when I was younger. But we don't have the massive hatches we once had here. But you can still find some bluegill up around the bank when they're hatching out.
And the water, the levels and things along that line, are we at summer pool, or what are we?
Well, it's interesting you should mention that. We've had high water here this week, in the last week and a half, actually. We've been about 3.5 feet above normal, which is unusual for late June and early July. But TVA is pulling the plug now. It is receding fast, but we're still 2 to 3 feet above normal right now. All the flooding along the Mississippi and Ohio River lately, as well as a lot of thunderstorms in this area. Inundated a lot of extra water lately. So we've kind of had to battle at it. Got up in some campgrounds and boat.
That's right.
And things of that nature here lately.
And Steve, we have to talk about that dreaded word, 2 words, Asian carp. Now, from your angle, I know you write for the Post-Intelligence here in Paris, and I get a lot of information out of Kentucky. What's going on with that?
I think they're making some progress, Larry. It's on the mind of every angler, regardless whether you're a bass, crappie, or catfisherman, or recreational enthusiast, or whatever. Everybody at one time or another brings up the word Asian carp. So we are concerned about them, still concerned. The commercial fishermen continue to be our best source as far as addressing the issue right now. They're harvesting, taking a lot of fish out of the lake right now, and that's good. I think they are making a little dent in it. They're getting a few more pennies per pound than they were a few years ago, so that gives them some enticement to keep harvesting them and taking them out. And I just did a story recently with a big commercial outfitting operation here in the Paris Landing area, and they're taking out thousands of pounds on 4 or 5 days a week, and I think they're making a slight dent. The Asian carp is a long battle.
It is.
It's not going to be won overnight. They're so prolific in high water issues like we've had this spring. That works great for them, coming into the reservoir and probably getting off a spawn. So it's a tough battle, but I think the commercial fishermen, if we keep making it entice them enough with enough money where they'll stay at it and work at it, because it is hard work. But
it is.
Those guys can catch them. They're putting out gill nets, and they're harvesting them and selling them to the markets. And
there's a market.
If they get enough money to stay at it, they can make a dent in the population.
Again, we're talking to our good friend Steve McCadams, waterfowl and fishing guide on Kentucky Lake. And, I know there's a big event coming up in your area next weekend. I don't know if you know about this Muzzy Classic bow fishing tournament that's coming up in the Kentucky side of it. Bow fishing is exploding.
It is. That's been a popular sport here for quite some time. And I've got several friends who have some very exotic boats that they go out with at night and bow fish. So it's a popular sport, and I'm glad to see them coming on. They can help the carp issue, too.
Yeah, and that's next weekend, folks, the 12th through the 14th. It's up at Lee James Park in Eddiesville, Kentucky, and I told my good friend Tim Kemp that I would announce that coming out of that Muzzy Classic bow fishing tournament. If you haven't ever watched one of these, they're pretty amazing. I know that they're doing some bow fishing over on Reelfoot Lake. That Mike Hayes has started some of that, and for you guys as a guide, it's got to just clean up some of these fish. And get them out of there, and they're exciting. If you like night fishing, and I know this time of the year, that's the way it is. And I was, we've got a guest coming up in a few minutes, Steve, that has no idea that you're going to be part of that, and I wanted to touch base with you. We're going to talk to Charter Captain Michael Perry, whose dad is Jim Perry, and a longtime friend of Steve. You won the crappie, one of the crappie championships, I think. You guys did.
Yeah, we won the crappie. Back then it was Crappie-Thon USA Classic, and back in '96 on Lake Chickamauga.
96. So Michael, and we're going to kind of surprise him with that. Tell us from your relationship how you've got to know Michael.
Well, he first started. I knew, of course, his dad and I had fished and hunted together for many, many years. And when Michael started coming along, I needed some more help in my guide business, and he started guiding for me in the early ages. So I think his very first trip was working for me on some waterfowl hunting, and that was many, many years ago. And as he's gotten older and got married and left Tennessee and went over in South Carolina, he picked up saltwater fishing pretty good and apprenticed under some people over there, and it's turned into quite an endeavor for him. I think he's doing quite well with it. You
believe he's 44? I mean,
it's hard to when I look at some old photos.
Yes,
and,
yes.
You look back and say, well, where did the time go?
And I can remember him cleaning fish for me.
Yeah.
And somebody, I think it was 10 cents a fish back in those days. I don't know what, probably 50 now. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's right. He did dress fish for us for many years.
He did some of that for us too and everything, but
you got change back from $1, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's not easy now, Steve. You ever ask how many really official guides there are in Tennessee? You guys don't have no organization or anything, do you? I mean,
we don't. We had a small organization, and of course we have to be licensed now by the state. That started a couple of years ago, so
right.
State's probably got a handle on that. But I don't really know how many there are across the state. But I can tell you, it's a lot harder work than most people realize.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of young kids coming in. That surprises me. And having been here so long that I have, and I get asked all the time, are there any young guides coming on Kentucky Lake? And the answer is no. There's not any coming on at all for young ones. And I was 19 when I first started, and you just don't see any young kids pursuing it. And a few people try to jump in and get their feet wet, and they find out there's a little bit more to it than they thought. So it's pretty tough. But I'm glad to see when somebody stays with it like Michael's done and pursue it and stay after it. And saltwater's a little different than Kentucky Lake, but there's still some similarities in there. You have to do some similar things regardless of where you are.
We're going to hold you over just for a few minutes on the next segment, if you can, Steve. And I got to ask you, how was your youth fishing rodeo before we let you?
It was great. We got lucky on the weather. They had anticipated a lot of storms that day, and we were praying for good weather, and somebody held an umbrella over us, thank goodness, and we had a good turnout, a lot of fish caught. It wasn't too hot, so we got lucky once again. 19 years, and we've only had one washout.
Wow. And you raised some money for a good cause, too, that's for sure.
We did. We raised about $8,000 or $9,000 for the Cancer Society. And,
good deal.
Just from a little small-town rodeo on a hot day, but it's certainly a labor of love, as you well know.
Well, I know. Well, Steve, if you can hang on, we're going to take a break. Going to come right back and try to hook up with Jim and his son, Michael Perry, on Outdoors with Larry Ray. Be right back.